Boy, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a long time coming. It's been over a year in the making, but I can promise you this one will be worth the wait because our guest here, he is figuratively and literally the saint of backyard wrestling. And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, that is like herding cats, and this young man has done a great job with that. He's done a great job as the man that created the Backyard Wrestling Nexus, which you've heard a lot about on Sportswire Radio over the past 18 or so months. Many friends of the show, many that are coming back here on Sportswire Radio are a part of the Nexus, and I'm excited to talk about that. But really, what I'm excited to talk about is the world of FBW. And boy, is there a lot going on here in FBW with, of course, our guest here in Florida Backyard Wrestling, because he's going to be coming up having a war that maybe finally could be ended in this I Quit match coming up at Wrestle Bash 8. And he's going to talk about that. He's going to talk about Violent Enterprise. He's going to talk about why in the world is Damian Prime back? Maybe that war that everybody's still talking about with Chris Dynamite, and talk about him being a 10-time, that's right, 10-time World Heavyweight Champion. And hopefully my voice doesn't go out if I mention his name 10 times, give him that usual introduction here, but he's going to talk a lot about that. Plus, the Nexus has a huge show coming up here next month, Supernova 3. Very excited about that. Obviously, many of our friends are going to be talking about that here on Sportswire Radio over the next few weeks, and we're going to share this man's story. And it's a unique story. He's been doing this for over 10 years, and he's had some war. He's even had a war or two with his fiance. I won't get into that on today's show, but I'm going to definitely talk a lot about Sam Reeves. We're going to definitely talk a lot about that in FBW and maybe Big B and who knows whatever else. But ladies and gentlemen, since it's an early start to the weekend and an early start, a special early start to being prime time, the brightest lights, the biggest stage, the only platform, figuratively and literally, where all wrestling matters. And after all, our guest here has been a huge part of the All Wrestling Matters movement here in his career. It is time to give him hopefully that saint-like introduction, but I'm sure he'll give me some sinner-like reviews on that, but we'll certainly hang on tight. It is my great honor to give this man the introduction the world has been waiting for, I've been waiting for, and I think he's been waiting for. So let's get right to it, ladies and gentlemen, here on Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station. So with that, without further ado, here on the Sports Report, #1 global sports show. He is the creator of the Backyard Wrestling Nexus. He's a star from FBW, 10-time World Heavyweight Champion. Simply put, his name is the Saint of BYW, Anthony
It's probably the best intro I've ever gotten.
Well, ask my voice how I feel after that, but obviously I appreciate the kind words coming from you, and so nice to meet you. We were talking for a few minutes before we went on, and it's finally happened. I think a lot of people were like, "Will it ever happen?" I'm like, "No, it's gonna happen." It was funny. Yesterday, I was on the air with a bunch of people you probably heard of, and Anthony Steele, and Jackson Law, and Big Man Cam, and Soldier GP, and I was like, "No, it's gonna happen this time." And we were saying it actually earlier in the week as well, and I had on the guys in UWA, Brett Anderson and Will Jackson. No, it's going to finally happen, and it's finally here, and we've started the weekend a little early. And how you doing, my friend? So nice to meet you for the audience.
Man, I'm feeling great. It's been way too long since.
I know. A lot of guys, Ace Reeds pushed it. CJ, John, I'm like, no, we're going to do it this time. I was speaking with the guys actually earlier in the week, and I'll certainly get to LBYW. will. They've been a huge topic in the Nexus. But yeah, it's go good to be with you over the next hour. So I know a lot to talk about, and I just before I want to say anything else, thank you for all that you're doing here. Really, you've done a lot with the Nexus over the past few years, and
I
I
appreciate it.
think it's so important. And I said it on one of my shows maybe about 6 or 7 weeks ago that I really have long supported the mission of the Nexus, because to me the Nexus has gone out and done a lot of things that we talk about here all the time on Sportswire and open collaboration.
Nah, the Nexus, since like, founding and creating the Nexus has brought so many companies and wrestlers alone together. We've built literally a network of support because like people who come into the Nexus if they need tips or they need help editing a logo or editing a video package. The whole Nexus is there because uh, I I have a degree in Photoshop, and many of the Nexus guys come to me for logos. I make a lot of logos in the community. If you look at all the logos in the community, a lot of them are made by me, especially, logos from ETW, KTW. But like, we're always giving tips and, advice to others who join the Nexus. But,
No,
you
I'm
know,
very happy. But now, listen, you did a lot of great things. I know Ace has been very, very appreciative of what you've done for him. I know you've had a lot of the UWA guys here in the company, and they've been here and they've talked so highly about the Nexus. And, obviously, CJ Junt and the LBYW guys, I mean, they've really been,
oh,
I
they're,
think a
they're the
couple.
best. They're the
Oh,
best.
love them. But I'll get to them later. But what I really want to talk about, first of all, for those listening watching, because obviously you're going to be in the ring coming up here in a war that's been going on for eons, you and Sam Reeves, the devil himself. And boy, I mean, he has certainly made your life miserable these past few months in the world of FBW. And I want to talk about what's coming here over the next month, because you are going to be in the ring with him once again, this time in an I Quit match coming up at WrestleBash 8. And for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, figuratively and literally, where all wrestling matters, you might be the saint of BYW, Anthony Aries, but what is going to happen when this war finally seems like it's going to come to an end in a matter of weeks? You and Sam Reeves, I Quit match.
Real quick, a whole story for later. I wasn't even supposed to become the saint of backyard wrestling, but me and Sam Reeves really have been doing this for a while.
Yep.
I mean, our history goes way back. Like out of character, this whole story and like being able to have matches with Sam Reeves, like personally means a lot to me because
Mm-hmm.
when I say in promos and in interviews that Sam Reeves was the first friend that I made in backyard wrestling, that's full on. That's a shoot. Like that's legit. He was the first friend that I made when I joined the backyard wrestling community on Instagram. When I made up my Instagram for the first time, he was the first one that I made a connection with. So like, first of all, like being able to have like all these matches, like back then we would like talk about just dream scenarios, like when we were both younger, still in school, not able to travel. Like we used to dream about like what if we came down together and like had a match at like a Wrestle Bash. But and like so like now, like being able to say like, hey, we're legit about to have a match on Wrestle Bash, FBW's WrestleMania. It's kind of dope, but in a character mode, he can go fuck himself. He can go hell. He almost ended my life.
Well, I'm going to put some stuff up on the screen shortly, but I can tell that this is personal. Now, usually a lot of people come on here and yeah, they hate each other. Yeah, but this, because of the history, the personal touch to it, this is why this match, and I know you guys have done this for a long time, but this time I quit. I mean, I quit match, Anthony Aries, is as personal as any match you can get. And, this one, whoever wins is going to have some significant bragging rights for a
See the
long time to come.
See, the last time we faced one on one with no outside interference, not from Big B at Showdown, was SGW Termination 2023. And in that match, he hit me with the pile driver almost 10 times. Now, sure, it was on a trampoline, but a pile driver,
Hey, a
wherever
power
you
driver's a
perform it,
power driver, man. You know what? I'm not a
exactly.
believer in, you go out there and get hurt. It doesn't matter, ring or not. I give you guys all the credit.
And that played into why after my SGW run, I didn't come back to wrestling for the first half of 2024 So the only way that this is going to end between me and Sam Reeves, I feel, is in a match where everything is on the line. Because not only is the United States title on the line, a title that I've never won because it's the first time in FBW, but like pride, ego, like all that's on the line. Because whoever loses and says I quit's going to have to face the
Listen,
repercussions and
it's like
embarrassment.
listen, you guys have a rivalry. We talk about it in sports all the time. People look at the Yankees and Red Sox. People look at in hockey. Everybody talks about the Maple Leafs and Canadians. In football, everybody talks about the Jets and the Patriots here. I'm in New York. Everybody talks about the Bears and Packers. Everybody talks about right now the 49ers and the Chiefs, two of the last Super Bowls they've faced off in 5 years. And you guys kind of have that in a sense. And that's why I would have to think there's a lot on the line. Yes, the championship. I'm going to get to that in a second, but you don't want to say I quit to the man that you've been battling for the better part of a decade.
And you see, I'm not gonna like I've lost I quit matches in the past. I've lost an I
But
quit
it's
match to
but
Chris
it's not
Dynamite.
Sam Reeves. It's not Sam Reeves.
Exactly, right, but, I mean, like, in my case, I know how to recover from saying and like, "I quit." But Sam Reeves, if he says, "I quit," I know that's going to destroy him in every single possible way it can, so that's another reason why I challenged him to this. Because 1, I already know that I have an experience in an I quit match. He's never been in an I quit match. I know what it takes to survive an I quit match because I've have won I quit matches in the past before.
Right,
So,
you just spoke about that right now, and I'm curious on something before I go to the screen shortly. And you've been in these matches. Now, I speak with a lot of people from all over the world. I speak to boxers, I speak to college athletes. So I've done this in different sports, and I'm curious your thoughts going into a match like this coming up at WrestleBash 8 because you've been in an I Quit match before, and Sam Reeves hasn't.
hell,
What
my
advantage?
last I quit match was actually at well, my first one that I won was actually at WrestleBash 3.
And I was going to ask you in terms of what advantage do you think that gives you going into this match that, let's say, Sam Reeves doesn't?
Well, first of all, I've never been pinned or submitted at a WrestleBash event. I have lost, but I was never pinned or
So you're the
submitted in those
Undertaker of
matches.
Wrestle Bashes,
Well,
basically.
I've lost, but I've lost in triple threats without being pinned or submitted.
Okay.
So I've
Close
never been
enough.
pinned or submitted. Keyword submitted at a Wrestle Bash. So that already
Mm.
gives me an advantage coming that this match is at Wrestle Bash 8. And a man who also was known as the devil or like the antichrist of
Yes.
FBW was Eric Danger. And I fought him at Wrestle Bash 3 in an I Quit match and I prevailed. And I know that I have the fighting spirit more than Sam Reeves to come out because Sam Reeves, he always relies on somebody or something.
He's got
And
Big B right now, who's the champion.
but Big B has a ladder match coming up at WrestleBash
I
8
did
against
see that
Ryan
too.
Blade.
But
Does Big B want to risk injury getting into our
and Ryan
business and
Blade
then
had a lot
loses?
to say a few days ago about Big B. A lot to say about him.
Look, Big B's tough. I don't know if Ryan Blade's going to do it, but God forbid, who knows if Big B's having that one bad day that every mortal man has. He gets injured getting his head into my business with Sam Reeves earlier in the night. Then he loses his undisputed title at WrestleBash. So I don't know if Big B's going to get involved, but
Well, we're going to find out here. But first of all, before we do anything, I want people to follow FBW. You can do it right here at FBW Backyard Wrestling. They're closing in on 1,000 subscribers. So, a very impressive accomplishment. Let's get them there a little bit closer. I've given them 3 subs because I own 2 other YouTube pages. In addition to Sportswire Radio, I own the Promo Wrestling Federation page and the Pride Wrestling Federation YouTube page. So, let's go out there and support.
my only goal this time that I have left is to hit 1,000 subscribers.
It's funny you said that because that's all I've been thinking about the last month and a half is to get to 1,000. Also, it's funny because if I get to 1,000 subscribers, I get a NEW Underground Wrestling tattoo. But I tend to think I don't know when I'm going to get to 1,000, but that's kind of where we're at. But
If
yeah,
I
I
ever
really
got
want
a
to get to 1,000.
tattoo, I think if I ever got a tattoo, I think it has to be one or two things: the Nexus logo or the FBW logo. But
I've actually thought about getting a tattoo in the past of the Sportswire logo, but I feel like it's cliche. And you know what? You only live once, and they've
I
been
don't know
very
if the pain is worth it. I don't know if the
But you
pain's
know what? I
worth it.
see everybody getting tattoos these days. Everybody. I mean, I listen. I worked in the world of politics, and there were politicians that had tattoos.
Hey, fuck around and find out. I don't know.
If these square politicians could get one, why can't a guy with as long of mutton chops and long as hair as I do have? I mean, I don't know. I mean, but that's where we're at. But yes, I agree with you. 1,000 subs would be obviously a great accomplishment. But I'm a little bit behind. You're closer, so let's get people to get you there. Let me first of all, and let me say hello to some Zilla. Zilla's kind of like our resident bot on Sportzwire Radio. She just basically repeats the same things and says, "Thank you, Zilla, for tuning in." Mr. Ace Reed is going to be here in a couple of short weeks, and I actually am speaking with a Australian wrestler who he connected me with. That's going to be here Tuesday morning his time, Monday night our time. He says, "Good day, Mr. Bryce, and good day, Mr. Aries. Thank you very much for that." I want to say hello to my friend out there in the UK who's got his own show, Mr. OK. He's got the Mr. OK show over in CCW. I know I'm lacking in UK wrestling coverage, but I will eventually get back to it. And I want to say hello to our friends at LBYW. I'm going to get to them toward the end of the show because I have not a lot of time with you, but I do want to spend a few minutes on the rules change, your perspective on that. But I want to save that in a little while. But thank you, obviously, to our friends in LBYW for tuning in. Okay, so obviously, you've got a lot on the line here. Let me ask you another question, kind of the basic one I always ask when I have guys like you challenging for a title. You haven't won the U.S. title. It's a new title, but nevertheless, what would it mean to you to be the FBW U.S. champion?
I think it means everything to me at this point in my career. Like obviously, last year in SGW, I had a life. I had a run of a lifetime. That's if we look back at the footage, I had a of a lifetime. I was SGW champ, arguably probably the best SGW champion in their company history. And then FBW returns after its little hiatus, and I fail to recapture the FBW title. Big B took out literally my brother Chris Dynamite, and I failed to get back the one prize that was synonymous with me in FBW. And then Sam Reeves comes with Hellfire and Rain. So things are not looking too hot for the Saint right
I
now.
was talking
And
to you off the air. You know, last year when I was supposed to have you, you were red hot. You had basically retired Damian Prime. You went to Georgia. You took over there, and you were on top. And this year, it's kind of been some, I guess, trials and turbulations. Almost, it's been uncharted waters. It's been bumpy this year and such.
I mean, I wouldn't say that would be my worst year in my career.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that would probably have to go to 2020. Um,
Well, 2020 is a bad year for a lot of people for a lot of reasons. So
hey,
I'll give you a
2020
pass
was
on that.
2020 was so bad I developed my own curse, the curse of
Well,
Aries. But I know I can beat Sam Reeves. I've done it in the past. Um, I'm hoping that the little luck of WrestleBash comes into play, and I can take one step back in getting FBW back. I mean, this is not the first time FBW's been run roughshod on. We had the Unwelcomed, we had AAW, but people may look at the U.S. title as a demotion. I went from being top of the world champion, and now I'm going for the U.S. belt. I'm gonna get that U.S. belt and show why the U.S. belt, even though it's been ruined and tarnished by Sam Reeves, that it's going to be a prize to be fought for in FBW.
but I would say conversely that any title still means something, and I would also say that you can look at it in a U.S. title. Think about the U.S. title historically. When WCW, the NWA had the U.S. title, it was always kind of the measuring stick title. It was kind of their version of the Intercontinental title. So I could stay still. You know what? You're a champion. You're still a champ, and at this point in your career, I mean, you've been a 10-time world champion, so holding a title still has significant importance, significant value. So there's no question that I look at any title. It doesn't matter what the title is. It still means something.
And I was not supposed to be the saint of backyard wrestling to begin with. So like me having this little dry season, I really have to get back into the game to validate and prove why I call myself the saint of backyard wrestling. So lots on the line for this Russell Bash 8 match.
And we see you coming out here, and we saw Mr. Reeves before. Now you're going to see him, for spoiler alert for those people that might be watching this shortly. But let me ask you a different question on Sam Reeves. What has made him a tough opponent, and a tough opponent for you going into this match? Talk to the audience about what Sam Reeves brings to the table as a competitor.
Man, he's really gonna hate me. He's really gonna hate me because before this, he said you can break character for anything this man asks you, but do not break
And
character
by
when he
Sam
mentions
was
my name.
here. I want to say one thing before you do that. Sam was here. I'm going to shout him out because Sam was here at like 2 o'clock in the morning a couple of weeks ago when this some guy that's in the Nexus Hall of Fame named Jack Delta was here. So I mean, Sam was actually here and listening to Mr. Delta. So I will actually say that Sam knows a little bit about what goes on here on this platform. So I take it
Sam
well.
Reeves, he has a mind for this. I don't know how much he wants me to go into detail, but all I'm gonna leave it is he does have ties in pro wrestling. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I don't know what
Okay.
he wants. I don't know what he wants me to say on that.
I would
He
say
has
best
ties in,
things, best scenarios. Don't say it because
yeah.
we are live and it will come back on this platform. I can
Yeah.
promise you somebody will say
I
something.
mean, it's nothing bad. It's just it goes into his personal life, and I respect that. But just
Sure, sure,
he
totally.
has ties in pro wrestling, and I think that that really helped. This man has a mind for backyard wrestling. It hasn't been shown that well, because in SGW, FBW and SGW are two entirely different entities.
Sure.
FBW, I pride myself on running this as a professional like type deal, because for me, this is my end game. Having my kids and having my family, becoming a pro wrestler and traveling and
I
trying to
know it's
make a
very
living up.
hard. Listen, we have a lot of guys come on here. We had this event, Summer Bash, which I'm sure you've heard of, which had over a dozen companies, and some are in the backyard, some are in the underground, some you had guys actually that were, I guess maybe you want to call them indie, semi-pro, and it was a mix of everybody. And I know for some guys, they want to travel, but it's hard. You have a family, you have a job. I understand completely. Trust me, it's
So
not
like
easy.
after having my kids, nothing means more to me than seeing them grow up and spending my life with them,
I
right? So like
respect that.
so this is my end game. So I try to treat this as, as professional and as legit, just so I can make my time here like, fun, and like I'm content with being in this environment. On the other hand, SGW kind of prides itself on just having fun, not really caring about the actual business side. So Sam Reeves, he has a really good mind for this. I legit talk to this man every day, and we're discussing like plans, ideas, how to make our story better, or like how do our matches go. Um, and also like in ring, he sees like pro wrestling matches, how they work and how they're done. So in ring wise, he's not like the average backyard wrestler that I faced, like Chris Dynamite or Eric Danger, or like one of my other buddies where we taught ourselves how to
You and
wrestle.
Dynamite, you had some matches.
Oh,
Let me just put it out there for the audience.
but because like me and Chris Dynamite, we taught ourselves together how to wrestle by watching like how-to videos on YouTube. You know,
Yeah.
Sam Reeves, he's witnessed pro wrestling matches live, legit, firsthand. So that makes it a whole different experience of, wrestling him in ring, because he takes some of those traits and, those vibes that he experiences, and he
Sure.
brings it in to wrestle with me. But he really has a mind for this. It's just sadly and hopefully, with FBW and being in FBW, we can start showing the world.
Well, I certainly hope that that's the case, and we certainly want to give everybody that opportunity to showcase themselves. And I wanted to put still some videos here from FBW. What I do like about you guys, and I made you chuckle off the air, is that some companies come on here and they have like book report 4 or 5 hour marathon shows, and you guys pretty much it's like there I can eat it, eat what the content is while I'm basically doing a couple
See,
things and
I'm
digesting
not
them.
gonna lie, like, I'm not gonna act like I can put on, like, a 2-hour show. My roster is not that big, and that's no
No,
secret.
but I do think
But
that I know, and I understand that obviously, but I mean I do think that the attention span I think companies get it right, like TBW, NEW, and they put
See,
out these
I like to
80,
try to
90.
keep I like to keep my shows at most like 1 to 2 matches, and then with some promos.
Yeah, I think, listen, AWL does that. Hillbilly
Get
Tilly's
straight
in
to
the
the point,
crowd. Yep.
and that's it.
No,
Because
I
like,
agree.
let's be honest, if a wrestling fan is setting out to watch wrestling, if they had the choice between watching backyard wrestling or pro wrestling, more times than not, they're gonna choose pro wrestling. But if you want them to stick around and at least watch your content and be up to date, you keep it nice and short to the point, just so they can tune in,
Well, you know what
understand
it
what's
is,
going on.
and I hate to say it, it's almost like if somebody looks at time, it's like if you go to the movies and they see a movie's 3.5 hours long versus 90 minutes, what do you think they're going to watch? Well, I think that there are some companies that have, 6 hour marathons, and I think you obviously get to the point, and I think that that's a good thing. But
I
let
mean,
me
it's
ask.
hit or miss because some audiences are loyal, some
No,
audiences
I
just
got
don't
that. I
care.
mean, listen, there is a lot of great companies out there, and I appreciate all of them and every single one of them that comes on this platform. Let me make that clear. Let me ask you though this question in terms of just your overall goals in the ring in 2024. I know we're halfway through, but I always ask this question to people, and I know I've got a lot still to get through with you. What is your goals for the rest of the year in 2024?
Business wise, I'm hoping that with this run, at least for this year, hopefully we can hit 1,000 subscribers with the run that we're having on now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if we're talking about like in ring stuff, right now it's to win that United States title. It's to win that United States title and prove that I'm still in the game, that I'm still worthy of being called the Saint of Backyard Wrestling when it comes to the abilities inside of the ring and not what I do for the community. Another one is maybe to have me or possibly Chris, more likely Chris, to be ending the year as FBW undisputed champ. At least get me and my brother in arms, the man who helped me find and create FBW,
Uh
back
huh.
on top. That would be the perfect world. Me and Chris Dynamite as the champs ruling FBW like how it always should be.
Good stuff there. Let me ask you one slight question. When you said this, the middle part of your goals, in that you want to show people in the community almost in a way that you still have it because everybody knows you from the Nexus. That was obviously your baby. You created it. But do you put a pressure on yourself because you feel like you've got to still go out there and show people that, hey, I can still do it in the ring, whether it's with Dynamite last year or Damian Prime or now with Reeves again? Do you feel like you've put a pressure on yourself going into these remaining months of the year?
Of course, because you see,
Tell me why.
um, first of all, I was never supposed to be the Saint, and I've said that a couple times
Yes.
already.
Yes.
Um,
And you said it on Ace's podcast also.
yeah, so I wasn't supposed to be the Saint. So let me explain that real quick.
Okay, go
So
for it.
when I was the Messiah of the Yard going into WrestleBash 7, the original plan was not supposed to be me versus my wife, right? It was supposed to be me versus my wife versus Chris Dynamite in a triple threat. Chris Dynamite was slated to win that match, but some circumstances, just real life issues, because like we
Sure.
have kids, he has kids, just life
Understand.
was it just did not want FBW to happen.
Sure.
So we finally got on a date where we got the gang together, but Chris Dynamite couldn't make it. And at this
Mm,
point, Wrestle Bash was already delayed almost 6 months. So we couldn't keep putting it off. So I had to face my wife solo, and I ended up taking the win because the whole plan was we're ending FBW. Whoever's going to be the last champ is going to be me or Chris in case any emergency scenario. Me or
sure.
Chris.
Sure.
I won the FBW title. Well, what does that mean for the Messiah of the Yard, whose main goal was to cleanse the backyard, cleanse FBW of sinners? Well, I've evolved. I'm no longer a Messiah. I'm now a saint. Granted, we all saw how that went. A month later, I lost Chris Dynamite in that 1 hour Iron Man match, which that match was hell. But which I went on to SGW and ran with their world title to make up for that. But so now I call myself the Saint of Backyard Wrestling. That is not some little nickname. That is not like I'm calling myself some whatever.
I
The
know,
Saint.
especially in the backyard wrestling circuit, to say that. People, everybody
There are
in
some
different ways.
massive toxic egos in this backyard wrestling community. That is no secret. So if I'm here calling myself the saint of this community,
Hmm.
I have to live up to that. That is a huge nickname.
Sure.
Hell, like the moniker the saint, you can even say that's worth more than being a champion because I'm literally the
Yeah, I
saint.
mean, you know what? It's a good point. It's a really good point that you make because there's
So
obviously a lot of pressure. Sure. Sure.
yeah, so being the saint, not only do I have to continue my deeds of helping the community with the Nexus, that's not all that wrestling is about. It's not just backstage politicking and helping people and doing business behind the scenes. It's also backing the sport up in ring with my abilities. So if
Absolutely.
I'm here having a really bad run as the saint of backyard wrestling, sure I'm still helping people with the Nexus, but if I'm not applying my craft the best that I can I really call myself the saint? To call myself the saint, I have to have 100% on both sides
And
of
I
the
would also
equation.
think here is we're here with Anthony Aries, of course, the saint of BYW, and he's going to be in the ring coming up in Wrestle Bash 8. He is going to be in an I Quit match against Sam Reeves over at FBW Florida Backyard Wrestling, and you can check them out on some links here as well. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice figuratively and literally will wrestling matches. I also think it's also, before I get to some more comments, is that you still can go out there and compete. You might as well be able to showcase what you've got out there because at the end of the day, there's always people that are going to be watching and there's always people that might be seeing you for the first time. And while you've still got it, why not be able to show that, hey, you know what? I can do it with the rest of everybody else.
For 100%. The pressure is real. The pressure is real, and
I think the pressure is definitely real because listen, I do this every single day. I mean, basically, one of my guests last week, basically called me like the Iron Man of this, and I'm like,
I mean,
well,
who calls themselves the saint of backyard wrestling, and who calls the saint of backyard wrestling and can actually back it up in the community today?
it's a good, I mean, I wouldn't know that answer. That's why, because I'm obviously not a wrestler, but your experiences obviously would lend you credence to be able to, say some of those things, and
Because like at first, like calling myself the saint,
Mhm.
I didn't really put too much thought about it. At first, calling myself the saint was just like part two of being the messiah of the yard, because like it makes sense. Like
Sure.
I'm the messiah of the yard. I've upgraded. I cleansed the FBW of sinners because I'm the champ now.
Right, right, right.
FBW is now in my image after being
Hmm.
tarnished. So,
Sure.
well, what do I become next? I become a saint. But after putting thought into it and like kind of like evaluating my situation,
Hmm.
the stuff that I do with the Nexus and helping people and throughout the whole community, or that's what saints do. So I can legit call myself a saint of backyard wrestling because I help people. That's what saints do. So like the pressure is real because the saint is not, it's not just the name, it's kind of the truth of who I am.
Well, I mean, obviously, we'll have to find out if you prove that in the ring coming up at Wrestle Bash 8, and we'll certainly have to see. I would think we're all excited about the match. And if you want to watch some Nexus stuff, there's some links here I'll put up shortly. I'm sure Sam Reeves will have a difference of an opinion, but I have some different comments I want to get to because a lot of people want to talk to you, and I only have X amount of time. I want to say hello to Mr. Jake Dvorak. Jake's going to be in the ring in the UWF tomorrow, and he's going to be on the same bill as my buddy Jimmy Controversy, who's going to be here live. Of course, yes, that Jimmy Controversy from GTS, the man that has wrestled Tommy Dreamer. He is here 9 o'clock Eastern time, and he is going to be here to talk about his own match coming up here. He's going to talk about Pro Wrestling Venom and a slew of other things that is on his mind in the wrestling community. So you definitely want to tune in to what Jimmy freaking Controversy has to say. It's always a treat when Jimmy is here, and I'm going to actually put that link up for you right now on the screen. So remind people that they should tune in for Jimmy Controversy. If you want to give Jimmy comments, you want to get a plug in, There he is. He's going to be here right now, 9 o'clock Eastern time in a few short hours. Yes, the blood doesn't come with it. The teddy bear doesn't come with it. But Jimmy Controversy will be here, and it's one that I'm really excited for because Jimmy has not been here in many months. And until then, we'll certainly get to some more comments. Napalm, was my guest before this whole LBYW stuff happened. I don't even know what to say about what Napalm had to say, but I'll get to LBYW in a few minutes. But he starts off nice and easy. And hello, fellas. Nice to see you to the American Badass. Thank you very much to Mr. Napalm for tuning in there. We'll take this off the screen and get to some more comments. Hillbilly Tilly, one of my favorites, of course, in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. He's the general manager for the Alliance Wrestling League, a very, very successful company right now that's kind of started in the yard, but is kind of almost morphing into an independent wrestling company. They actually work out of an arena in Gadsden, Alabama. They're training with a bunch of guys who run the independent circuit. It's a really very professionally run company. All great talents. I mean, all salt of the earth people. Their champion is a guy, ADT, who's done a lot of great things. And D'Angelo the Flame, who's been traveling all over the place, who's actually got a tryout with NWA and Impact Wrestling was just there. And I want to give Hillbilly Tilly some applause. Howdy, Tom. Howdy, Aries. I remember Aries being one of the most well-known in a BYW area a couple years back. Well, he's back here on Sportswire Radio, so now he should be a lot more well-known. I'm only kidding. Well, actually, no, you probably will because there's 31 people watching you right now live. So I have to say that, yeah, definitely people are looking forward to seeing you. Want to say hello to my buddy, Mr. Dalton Skull. Everybody loves Dalton Skull. He says hello, and he puts the eyeball emojis. Obviously, BYCW put out their own most recent show on Wednesday. Everybody's talking about it, and he's saying hello, basically. Could it be the Alphaverse Aries? Hang on tight. Maybe
I'll come to Florida.
Well, yeah, because you've already said on Ace's show you're not going down to Bismarck, so you're definitely not going to North Dakota. So
you know how much it took to travel 4 hours to Georgia? With this economy, life is not easy.
It's definitely, for each, listen, everybody, it's different. Like I said, a lot of guys that went to Summer Bash, some of them traveled and no joke drove like 12, 13 hours. I mean, I won't say the wrestlers, but there were wrestlers that to get to Summer Bash in beautiful Bremen, Ohio, and of course, Sportswire Radio, yours truly played a role in that event with 12 plus companies taking part. Guys drove 10, 11, 12 hours, so it's not easy. Listen, you have a family, job, it's definitely difficult.
Hey, if he wants to come to Florida and feel the curse of Aries,
well, you know what?
He won't be no alpha.
I'll tell you what. He might like the warmer weather when it's December and January, or when the season ends for you guys in November. Maybe that would be something he might be interested in.
Oh, nearing 100 degrees humid weather. Yeah, I don't know about that.
Well, in New York right now, we have about the same weather because the running joke is everybody from New York comes to Florida. Where are you in Florida, by the way?
You want to know a fun fact about me? I'm actually from New York, Long Island.
And when did you move to Florida?
2012.
Okay, so right before you started your BYW career. Where in Long Island were you from?
Central Islip.
Oh, okay. I know you very well then. What a small world. What a small world. My very good friend.
But right now I'm right outside of Tampa Bay.
Okay,
the perfect location.
My buddy was out by you. He got a job with the he was supposed to get a job with the FBI. I don't know since, but that was where he was. No, he was actually doing accounting, believe it or not. Really? Accounting and bookkeeping. So it wasn't like, no, not an FBI agent.
For Florida kind of being like the hotspot for like pro wrestling, because if you really think about it, a lot of companies are, like NXT, WWE,
well, because
Orlando.
Of the airplanes, because you guys are close to all the airports.
But not a lot of backyard wrestling companies are in Florida. Any like relevant ones.
So why do you've been at this for over a decade? Why have there been so little companies in the yard from Florida? Why do you think that? I would think the weather is a natural destination.
I know there was one guy not that long ago. In the beginning of the Nexus, he was Internet Wrestling Evolution. He kind of was like one of the first backyard wrestling companies to do like fully cinematic matches. And the Nexus hosted
you guys just did one.
Yeah. And then there was Bright Upstart called MSW. They did a show called MSW Storm. Mm-hmm. But those guys seem to like just quietly disappear.
Yeah,
they had some hype going.
I would have thought Florida would have been a great destination. But,
and if you think like, you know how hard it is to find FBW like roster guys, like it's such a nice place for like wrestling because the Performance Center,
See,
WWE.
I could give you the excuse. I'm in New York City. I could basically tell you, well, nobody has a backyard in New York City, so it's pretty easy to say why we don't really have backyard wrestling. But in Florida, I would just think it's such a natural spot.
I
Again, the
mean, if
weather
there are yard companies out there in Florida, they're
as
not
well.
on the level of like FBW. So
Sure, sure.
I ain't seen nothing.
Well, let me get to some comments because I've got X amount of time with you. Hello, Tom. Howdy, Anthony. There's James Taylor. Of course, he is the host of the Nemesis Sessions. He is the new owner of ROBW. Hillbilly Tilly is enjoying the interview. Yes, so am I. No, we're talking about the backyard wrestling. I'm going to put the link up here for shortly, so hang on tight for that. Also, James Taylor, by the way, wanted to say, and by the way, with the super chat, a $2, James, I don't know why you do this. Maybe your ROBW millions is kicking in here, but I just wanted to say all wrestling matters. I appreciate that. James Taylor giving us a super chat here. All wrestling matters. Well, thank you, James Taylor.
No,
My
I'm glad that trend is starting to go around
No, I
because
really believe in that because I think as yarders, the reason I can't sort of use that is because I really felt yarders get bullied too much by these holier than now independent pro guys that have a problem with
but
everybody going out there anymore.
another thing that we have to fix and also work on supporting is yarders who wrestle in a ring, yarders who wrestle on a trampoline, yarders who wrestle on the ground. We all have to learn and start supporting each other
Copper
more.
Dragon says it all the time. I'm sure you know Copper Dragon. He talks about the fact that trampoline is good. You can learn a lot from the trampoline. There's
Oh,
a
dude,
lot of things you can pick up from that.
the first time that so like like I wrestled on the trampoline for
Yes,
SGW. When I
yes.
bought my own trampoline, my first training session was with Big B, and I ended up getting whiplash and almost got concussed from
No, I
wrestling on a
really believe
trampoline.
in
That
it.
shit
Listen,
sucks.
no, listen, it's not easy, and listen, that's why to me, I really feel that in this platform, the reason that I'm talking to you right now, and the reason really that Sportswire is relevant, and I don't have a problem saying it, is really because of the backyard and the underground wrestling circuit. Yes, I started doing British wrestling, I've covered pro wrestling, I've done other sports. No question, it's given me a following. I'm grateful every single day for the contacts, the people I've interviewed. I have a background in news, worked on a radio show for 7 months. I've done a lot of interesting things in life. But if it wasn't for the backyard and the underground wrestling circuit, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be up at 2 o'clock in the morning with Jack Delta and 20 plus people on YouTube. I wouldn't be speaking to Ace Reed. I wouldn't have been able to have the relationships with James Taylor, Hillbilly Tilly, CJ Junt, Napalm. And I think that's because of the community here. And yes, I know that there are things, that go on, but I can assure you that with this platform, despite what you may or may not hear from people out there, I do my best to give everybody a chance because I believe in the fact, in the words of Hillbilly Tilly, true yarders go out there and put their blood, sweat, and tears. They do it for the love of wrestling. And everybody to me that goes out in the backyard, doesn't matter what the skill set is, with some certain exceptions, but most people that go out there are doing it for the right reasons. And that's why I believe that I'm here right now speaking with you, sir, and a lot of other people that come onto my show and talk about, I need you to be on Sportswire. Talk about the fact, when are you on tonight? The random messages, the text messages from people. I won't say wrestlers' names that say, damn, Tom, just want to say thank you for believing in me. Thank you for this platform. And that's why I'm here. And that's why I'm talking to you. And thank you to James Taylor for his support and all the great things he's doing with the Nemesis Sessions, the ROEW platform, and obviously also the Promo Wrestling Federation, which I owned. Let me get to some comments because I don't have a lot of time with you. My mother's side came from Jamestown, New York. I know Jamestown very well. Yep, still up there, knowing the area. And North Dakota is tough to find BYW wrestlers. Yeah, I would think North Dakota would be a little tough. That would be a little
Who
tough.
lives in North Dakota?
Well, they have 2 U.S. senators, so apparently somebody does. But that's a different conversation.
For like a little
Wasn't Wait
community
a
that
minute? Doesn't Brock Lesnar, wasn't he in North Dakota for a while? Wasn't
no,
Brock
he's from
Lesnar?
Minnesota.
But didn't
Minnesota.
he live up there for a
Oh,
time?
I have no idea.
I
I'm
feel
not
like
no
these guys are
stalker.
gonna know this. See, you poke the wrong tiger, and Napalm and CJ, because I'm sure they're gonna come up with who lives in North Dakota other than LBYW talent.
Jesus Christ.
But
For like a community that's kind of like shunned on, like we really do got some like big, passionate, like, characters,
dude, I'm
you
here
know.
every night, and I gotta tell you, I was here last night at 1:30 in the morning people will like. I had a lot of people here still. I was here, Jack Delta. Every time Jack Delta's here, everybody drops this stuff. I have Jimmy Controversy. I know Jimmy Controversy's not really backyard, but people in the community look to him, and I'm gonna have a big turnout tonight. People are like really excited for him. I have, a thing we started called the All Wrestling Matters Hardcore Tournament. It's in Worcester, Massachusetts with NEW. Shout outs to them. Underground Wrestling. We have an All Wrestling Matters Underground title started by Sean Jovi. Summer Bash is in part with this platform. I mean, these are things that are done from our community, despite all the things that might divide us, all the
Yep.
things that people might hear about. The truth is, we have so much passion here, and we're starting to bring it together. I think there are a lot of people that are a part of it. Summer Bash had 13 companies a part of that. I mean, that speaks volumes to where we are, which to me leads me into this segue of the backyard wrestling next. We have a huge show coming up at Supernova 3, and obviously a lot of friends are going to be a part of it. Obviously, the guys in LBYW, certainly Ace Reed and BWDU is going to be a part of it, and talk about what we can expect coming up in Supernova 3.
So Supernova
I'm glad
3.
you had trouble with it, not me. Because if I would have said it, I would have got messages on Facebook or Instagram and TikTok. Now, you messed it up. I just want to remind you. So I'm glad you did it because you're the saint. I'm
The
not.
saint, the saint is human. Um, but no, Supernova 3 is going to be the third annual Shondell Nova Holiday tribute show. This year we're gonna take a little different approach. We're still gonna pay our tribute and respects to Shondell.
Yep, I know.
But this time we're gonna forge it into just a normal collab show. We're gonna try to focus on making it just a normal collab show and a good one with some good quality content and matches in honor of Shondell Holiday.
Yep.
Because I don't know if it's known, but Nova was kind of the pioneer to the collab show
Yeah, I
idea.
think I think either when CJ was here or Ace was here, I'm sure one of them, if they're there in the chat, could remind the audience. But I'm pretty sure I brought this up on one of their shows last year, so this is definitely came up as a topic for sure.
Yeah, so this year, because like in the years past, we've just kind of focused on like replaying his matches and
Sure.
hearing from promos, and then obviously doing the VCW Anarchy title match. But he only has a catalog of so much, so we're gonna obviously have to rethink our strategy of how we're gonna do
Reimagine
the.
is the better word.
Yeah,
Reimagine.
but yeah, so we're gonna have to rethink how we're gonna do this. So we're gonna go with just trying to put on a good quality collab show. But we still are gonna have some promos and tribute packages squeezed in there. But so far we call LBYW. Jesus Christ, my brain cells
That's
are
why I'm
dying.
glad that you know what it is. I know you're live and in prime time, the brightest lights, the biggest stage, but I
Right.
know well you get a pass because if I would screw up on these things, I would hear from it. I am sure. So
But no, LBYW, they're working on a match. Ace Reed is working on a match.
yes, Ace is gonna be here and he's got a lot to say. He's got
So we
actually
we were
big
just
announcement.
talking before this.
Mhm.
He gave me the green light to publicly mention this. We're gonna try to get Ace Reed versus Striker for the main event of this year's Supernova 3.
Ooh, and we know what they have been fighting with. Oh boy, if that
So
happens,
so we're trying. KTW, ATK, they're
yep.
working on a match. Nothing yet.
I gotta get ATK on it because he always likes all. He has been on Instagram. One of my every time I look up
Oh, he's
ATK
the
likes
best.
this. I owe him. I got to get him on one of these days.
Yeah, and then me on behalf of FBW, I'm gonna work on trying to get a match in for this supernova. I've actually never competed on a supernova. I've never sent in anything for a supernova besides the first one, which I just opened up the show to address the situation. But so I'm gonna try to be on this supernova. Um, it's gonna be a good show. Now I know that in past like little collab shows have kind of died down in hype, but I'm hoping we get back on track
Yeah,
because
I got to be honest. That was something I spoke with. with different members in the Nexus, and I say it all the time. I really believe in the mission of the Nexus
See, the whole
because I
point
do
of the
believe in the
collab
fact,
shows
yeah,
is to not only give everybody a spotlight, but it's also to make a mixtape of backyard wrestling.
yep.
So if people wanna come in, see what backyard wrestling is all about, they can come to the Nexus and see a whole show of a whole bunch of different companies that they can go look into and find out and see what backyard wrestling is all
It's
about.
in basketball they would call them like a reel. I mean, you get them on Instagram, they call them a reel. But when I did college basketball, I used to cover college basketball very regularly, and I would go to these gyms and watch players, and the always common theme was, okay, here's my reel, here's my stuff, and that's why I really support the mission of the Nexus, because I do believe it's giving an opportunity to people and companies that would never have networked. And I've been saying it throughout the show. I look at BWDU and I look at LBYW. I mean, they're from your company and they've had a lot of success legitimately. I mean, you look at LBYW, well over 1,500 plus subscribers. BWDU, I mean, look at this, over 1,000. I mean, the success that you've had from these are Nexus members who've done a lot of great things. And I think that speaks volumes to what open collaboration is. And I really think, and I say it all the time because, sometimes people ask me questions here on Sportswire about it. Other people, have different things. But I've always said I truly believe in what the mission of the Nexus has been, because I do think it gave a lot of people an opportunity to feel safe. It gave them an opportunity to feel like that they could network, build friendships, and really that's what the community should be. And I do think that this is a thing that we should really try to continue to do. And I think here on Sportswire, we have certainly been at the center of it. I don't like to take too much credit, kind of like you, but I do think in a lot of ways we have been a place that people know that they can come and learn about other places. But I
For
think the
sure.
Nexus, you guys have done, I think, a lot of great things. And I think companies like LBYW, ATK, obviously BWDU, UWA's been here.
Yeah.
UWA's been a big player on
You know,
Sportswire recently, and I think he's done a lot of
so
great things with that.
so with the collab shows, right? I try to allow anyone who wants to be on the shows. And you can ask some of the members and they'll tell you if they want to in the chat if they're here. I'm really lenient with the collab shows. Like I really push the release date so I can allow as many companies who are trying and are wanting to be on the collab shows that they're able to get on the collab shows. And now look, not every company is for everybody who watches. So with
Absolutely.
the collab shows being a mixtape form, they may not like one match from one company, but they might see the next one and they might like that match. And then they think, hey, I didn't like that match from that company, but I did like that match from that company. Let me go check out their company. And then it brings support to their channel. And
What I
then,
thought was even cool is you had the guys from Greece last year.
yes,
The Shadow J Gaz. I mean, he was here. I thought that was cool that you branched out even to outside the country, because there are people that would maybe they would like to be involved. Maybe they would like to be able to feel like that they have a home. You gave people a home in Greece and Australia, and I think
I've had people hit me up from Mexico about the Nexus, but I I haven't heard no updates, but they did come to the Nexus, just for some advice about how to start up a company, how to really, work on making a successful Fed in the backyard in Mexico. So like, we've had Mexico, Canada, Greece, Australia. It's wild. It's a wild.
Yeah, and I think those are things that really, to me, are important, that we have places or people that would want to give that experience and help with no judgment, no anything, and people can feel like that they can be a part of something, build friendships. And I think, to me, we were talking about this off the air. I know I've only got a little more time with you, but I think that that's really some big wins. You have some big wins there. I look at what LBYW is, and LBYW, has more subs than some people that come on this platform regularly. LBYW is got 1,500 plus subs. Ace Reed is a big deal in the community. I mean, he's a great interviewer. He's a even better wrestler. And I know a few things about him when he comes here on this platform that he's going to break. That's going to be really big. And, ATK, we talked about him. I mean, you've had people here in the past, UWA, the affiliation with Jackson Law. Jackson Law is coming back on the platform next Sunday. And, we talk about different people that have been here, some heavy hitters that have come on this platform regularly have been in the Nexus. And I think that that speaks volumes to some really big wins that you've had here. And I think that's why a
Uh,
lot of people need to go out and check out the Nexus, hit the follow button on Instagram, hit that sub button on YouTube, because there's a lot of great things I think the Nexus is
you
doing.
know, it's so wild to like think about it and reflect like that because like I I don't think I give myself the credit that maybe other people think I deserve with the work I've done with the Nexus. But I mean, it's not to me. It's not about like doing all these good deeds and then getting rewarded for it. I just want to help and meet people and make connections with people who love the same thing that I do. That's ultimately why I made the Nexus because me realizing that this is my end goal, this is where my end destination is. I saw how toxic and how just not fun the community was. And nobody was taking a stand at the time to make any safe haven, to make any effort to fix and, correct any of the issues. So at the time, I became just content of this just being I'm stuck here. I wouldn't say stuck because that makes it really sound really
I
bad,
was
but
gonna say you might be the
um
same, but you might want to do over on that one. Go ahead.
yeah,
I
I'm
got you.
hey, the
It's
saints
all
humor.
good. It's all good.
But realizing that this is where I'm gonna be, if I really want to be content and have a fun time here, and not regret anything in my life and in my career, this community has have some safe haven so where I can enjoy it, others can enjoy it. So I launched the Nexus and I sought out to find some companies and, you know, at first the original goal was to just make a safe haven for backyard wrestlers and backyard companies who want to just have a safe haven where they can grow and have like connections, have friendships, relationships of just having fun, like meeting people who love it just as much as the other. Obviously, it turned into, a brand where, people has grown and, achieved many things on the Nexus platform. Like UWA launched with the help of the Nexus. BYCW, Dalton Skull's
Yep.
company, he had one of his first major showings on the first ever Backyard Wrestling Nexus Hall of Fame show. And in fact, on that collab show, it was just supposed to be Hall of Fame introductions, but I allowed Dalton Skull to have a match as a special attraction aired on that to give him a little boost because he was starting back up with his company at the time. ATK, uh, he retired a bit after some stints in YBW, and he returned off the hype of BYWN and a BYWN collab show. Um, but it's crazy to think about like all the stuff that
No,
I've
you had
done.
some
Really,
really good wins. I mean, these are like we were talking about this off the air before. We went on. We briefly spoke, and I was like, "No, listen, legitimately, I say it all the time. Ace is a budding superstar. CJ Junt, what he's done is, really with that company, LBYW. I mean, they are a legitimate powerhouse in the entire community. I mean, they're not just in the Nexus. Listen, LBYW's got more subs than XCW. DXCW. I mean, XCW. Obviously, I work with them and I love XCW dearly, but LBYW has more subs than them. You had YBW. You talked about them. I mean, YBW. Everybody knows the man that's going to wrestle in 2 hours. Aaron Blaze. UWA. I mean, they've had some really big moments. Their most recent show hit 1,300 plus views. I mean, we talked about obviously with Ace Reed, they just hit 1,000 plus subs, and that's from the Nexus. I mean, it's a
it's
lot
wild.
of great people. Everybody loves Dalton Skull. Dalton Skull came on my platform 2 months ago. Aside from the Wi-Fi problems, everybody loves Dalton Skull, and I think those are things that I think should be recognized more. And I think that I would like to say that we've done a lot of that here on this platform, but I think what the Nexus has done is given those guys an opportunity to connect. And let me get to some comments. I've only got about 10 more minutes with you, and there's a lot of people I know that want to say hello to you. And also, I want to give first of all, congratulations on Chase Wakefield, the Bitcoin billionaire who's going to be wrestling in Uganda. I'm sure that you haven't branched out to Uganda yet, but Chase Wakefield is getting engaged on July
What's
25th,
up?
which is
That's what's up.
13 days from now. Congratulations to the Bitcoin billionaire Chase Wakefield getting engaged. Boy, this was one shoot I did not expect. Certainly, he said a lot of things a few weeks ago, and now, boy, this might top it and some. But boy, Chase Wakefield getting engaged. I guess maybe that Bitcoin billionaire worth is going to be cut in half because once you get married, right, doesn't that mean the other half goes to the spouse? So I guess you're not going to be a Bitcoin billionaire anymore. Maybe you're going to be what? Maybe be like a Bitcoin like half a billionaire, right? Because a billion's what, half a billion. So he's the one guy. Listen, the running joke is he's the one guy that makes me look poor. But obviously, that people would say in real life, I'm definitely not poor. But Chase Wakefield is definitely a guy that's very rich, but he's not rich in his net worth. He's rich in his beautiful soon-to-be wife. Congratulations to you. God bless you, Chase Wakefield, and hope you come back onto Sportswire Radio the next month. Maybe we can talk about that. And he does say good afternoon. Want to say hello to my buddy Big Tex out there in DBW land in the beautiful state of Maryland. Obviously, they had a Thursday Night Thunder Punch show last night, which a lot of people are still talking about. And let me get to some more comments before I get a few more questions in with you. I would think it's hard to find people in general in North Dakota. Heard the population density is pretty low. Yeah, it's definitely not New York City like in population. And Napalm says he feels special. No, you don't. Let's see here. The entire population is roughly 7 to 800,000 in total. Yep, that sounds like it would basically be just a little bit bigger than my home borough currently, Staten Island, New York. Bismarck's all-around metro population is 100,000. Sounds nice. Yes, definitely different. And I was partially correct. Brock Lesnar was born and raised in South Dakota, went to BCS College in Bismarck before going to Minnesota State. Thank you very much for correcting me. And Ace wants to give you a nice little round of applause. We went from about 400 subs to 1K within 4 months. That's got to be a record. Yeah, I would say TBW might be. I think DBW and Chase and Big Tex are from DBW. Chase is from VTW. But I would think other than VTW, DBW, I would say in TBW, that would be those three companies would probably be. I would say that only other companies I think that would probably surpass you. But those companies have been around for years. I mean, listen, those companies, they have the almost Coca-Cola stamp of approval. One company's got almost 8,000, the other two have 4,000 plus. But I think from a small mom and pop guy in Australia to go from 400 subs to 1,000, that is very impressive. And that's from the Nexus. That's hard work from the Nexus. And that's being a Nexus member. I think that speaks a lot of volumes to Ace's hard work, but also the collaboration and being the Nexus. I only got a few more minutes with you. Let me ask you a couple of questions. First, what are your final words for Sam Reeves?
I'm gonna make him say I quit. This has to end. This has to end. I mean, if we're looking at it, you know, if we're looking at it, this rivalry, this feud, this war has taken years off of our careers at this point. If any of us wants to go on, evolve, improve, chase other goals, achieve other things, the war between me and Sam Reeves has to end. It it will if it doesn't end, me or Sam Reeves, we're not going anywhere else in our careers. Because so far for the past 2 years, we've been stuck hip to hip fighting this war. Granted, I was able to get the SGW title, but only from Sam Reeves. Everything I've done has involved Sam Reeves. So if this doesn't end between me and Sam Reeves, who knows what's going to happen. So if we want to evolve, if we want to achieve bigger and better things in our careers respectfully,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to have to end between us. So I quit match, Russell Bash 8 has to end.
What did you think of the LBYW rules changes?
Very interesting. Very interesting.
CJ Junt is here, by the way. Cheap plug. He's here Thursday, coming up 4 o'clock Eastern time to talk about those rules. But what did you think before I get into it with CJ on Thursday show? So what did you think?
Hey, I mean, to to grow and to be a successful company, you got to stand out. You got to try interesting things. You have to get the audience to get invested and interested. So doing this whole new rules change and stuff, I think is going to benefit them in the long run because it's just going to gain interest, and with that comes more viewers. So, hey, you got to do what you got to do. You got to be creative. You got to stand out.
Well, I definitely think that they're going to do more of that, and I'm very excited about their future. And I'm really excited about CJ coming back to Sportswire because he actually hasn't been back here in over a year. I've had Willister, I've had Chris Aruda, who's obviously in the Nexus Hall of Fame. I've had Napalm here a bunch of times. I've had Ragnarok, but I haven't had a chance to have on CJ Jutnawad. I've even had guys like Scary Terry was on here, and Scary Terry is almost like the LBYW version of like Heath Slater and Barry Horowitz and Brooklyn Brawler. He's been here. Yes, I know you're kind of laughing at that, but I've also had on Psychotic Freak. By the way, Psychotic Freak and Bobby's had Nate Dogg had quite an incident here a couple of weeks ago on Sportswire. I'll leave that at that. But let me ask you then two more questions. First, if there's one or two moments in your career that stand out most, what would they be?
Oof. I think one of them has to be my debut in SGW. It has to be. Because leading up into the debut at SGW, nobody thought I was going to travel. Everybody was thinking Anthony Aries is not the one to travel. And I've even said it. I mean, with my family, my situation, it's not possible. You know, little known, like when I realized that Sam Reeves was only 4 hours away, I was like, okay, that that's something I can make happen. Hell, like we've driven 3 hours in the state of Florida for stuff. So 4 hours to Georgia, I was like, okay, I can work towards that. And then being like humbly like looking back, if you would have told my 11-year-old self when I first created FBW that day, that December day, when me and Chris Dynamite went to my backyard after binge watching how to wrestling videos, if you told me that day, 11 years old, that in 10 years, in 11 years, whatever it was, 10, 11 years, after that day, that I was going to wrestle out of state for another company, win another company's out of state title. If you told me that at 11 years old, the day I created FBW, I would have thought you were crazy. So it definitely has to be that, because like, looking back on, like, the whole FBW journey, going out of state, winning a title out of state, that's a pretty big accomplishment in backyard wrestling, especially for a backyard wrestler. So I think that has to be
Yeah, it's
one
a.
of
I think
them.
it's a big deal. I think to travel. I mean, obviously, there's certain guys that have made a name for themselves. Obviously, Jack Delta's in the Nexus Hall of Fame. D'Angelo the Flame has, I think, been the new Jack Delta this year. He's actually, I think, united a lot of companies. Obviously,
I mean
Hillbilly Tilly's
I mean,
company.
SGW is not on the level of some of these other companies, but, I
Sure.
mean, to me,
No, it's still a moment. Listen, you traveled,
I
dude. I mean, it's
yeah,
not easy. No, it's. Listen,
um,
I give you a lot of
but if
credit for doing
but
that.
if I had to give one from, like, FBW or, like, involving FBW, I would probably have to say just the moment of achieving and completing the 1 hour Ironman match, because in this generation, I haven't seen much 1 hour Ironman matches in backyard
Yeah,
wrestling.
my comment from my buddy Nicholas Crenton. He was in a 30-minute one plus overtime, but that's still not an hour. So very
Me and
few do an
Chris
hour.
me and Chris did me and Chris did 30 minutes. I did 30 minutes with his brother, Eric Danger, in 2015. I did the first 30 minutes with Chris in 2021, and then, we did the 1 hour plus overtime, which the 1 hour was Clash of the Yards. It was a 2-to-1, uh, overtime in a 1 hour. I think we went almost an hour and 10 minutes. Just that whole moment and just that whole, like, completing that, like, that, an hour, and plus we did an hour, like, on the ground, no ring, no trampoline. I haven't seen much 1 hour Ironman matches in the backyard wrestling community for this generation.
Me neither. Me
I
neither.
don't know too much about past generation. If there is somewhere out there, it's not on the scale and the level and the platform that me and Chris did it on, because we did it for the backyard wrestling collab show, BYWN Clash
Yep.
of the Yards.
Yeah.
That was the most difficult, challenging match to say that I ever did. Because it takes a lot to do a 1 hour Ironman match, and we did
I
not do
think it
that
takes a
match.
lot to do a 10-minute match. I don't. I don't
Like,
think
we
it's
did
that
not
easy.
do that match cutting it up. We did the full hour, one take. We went from, like, entrances to the draw on sudden death, and then we restarted the film just to make, like, the file sizes, smaller, because, editing. I'm a producer at the end of the day. I edit all the FBW videos. But no, like we legit like we did that like what was it like 70, 80 minutes, like just full on one take, no rest, go, go, go. No, we didn't restart at any point. We didn't take a break at any point. Um, that honestly was the biggest match in FBW history, probably definitely on the Nexus.
I think that's why it's been viewed, and the highlights of it have been viewed as well as has been viewed, and I think those are some great moments. And my last thing before I get to close, I know your time is really limited here. Speaking of all those moments, you've done so much obviously in the community. You've been doing the Nexus, you got your own career, 10-time world champion. You're the same. How about one of these days when you come back next time, you go into another Hall of Fame, this Hall of Fame we have called the Sportswire Hall of Fame? What do you think?
I appreciate that. I have a love-hate relationship with Hall of Fames. I know, so it's no, I don't know if it's a secret or not, but the Backyard Wrestling Nexus has a board of directors
Yes, I'm aware
that
of
th-
it. Yes,
that I go to for decisions and stuff. They last year there was, or was it last year? I think it was last year, or maybe earlier this year. My time, I don't know.
I am.
There was a hashtag going around Aries for Hoff. Aries for Hall
Yeah,
of
I
Fame.
heard of.
They
I
tried
think I.
pushing to get
Yeah,
me into the Backyard Wrestling Nexus Hall of Fame, but I denied because I do not feel like that is my place, or because I'm the
I have
owner.
heard that from Nexus members that shall name anonymous on this platform. So yes, I have heard about this.
Obviously, I same reason I can't go into the FBW Hall of Fame. Why am I going to put myself in a Hall of Fame of something that I
I
created?
appreciate that, the honesty, because of the nepotism, and you feel like it's your own thing, and I respect
They
that.
tried deciding for me, but at the end of the day, I have to record the video. I have to edit
Well,
the video. I
in
have
the
to upload the
Sportswire
video.
Hall of Fame, you really don't have a choice because the committee has one vote. And my vote is probably bigger than
And I
most.
mean, I don't own this brand. I don't hold
I
no
own the brand.
political powers, so
You have zero.
I really
So,
appreciate
I
that.
mean, if you'd like to come back sometime, maybe after Supernova 3, and maybe we can
I would
do it then
appreciate
after
that.
that. So
I would
how
appreciate
about
that.
that? So we'll do that, and it'll be a lot of fun. And I'll let you go
Hey,
on.
maybe I gotta get you in the Backyard Wrestling Nexus Hall of Fame because, I mean, hey, with the interviews and the shows that you do here, you're giving a platform for backyard wrestlers to tell their stories, enhance their characters, get their brand out
Well,
there.
I
So
tell
you're
you
doing
what,
just
save it
as
for
big
the
of a part as
wrestlers.
the
There's
Nexus.
a lot of great talents that let them get first. The main thing is let's get you here. I'm very excited about Supernova 3. Ace is going to be here. So is CJ. They're going to be here in the next few weeks. Napalm's here like every other week. Wilster will be back here. We had to reschedule him because of what happened with the LBYW news, but we'll definitely get to that. Obviously, last thing from Nicholas Crenson. Hello from WC Ring of Destruction 3. That'll be out very soon. Craven Rage is here next Tuesday. I want to give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say? Let me know. Anything else, and I pass the baton to you.
All right. Just want to get this real quick off my chest. Look, I know the
Absolutely.
Nexus hasn't been always sunshine and rainbows. I know we've had some drama and stuff. Like we're all human. We all make mistakes. We all have our moments in time. We're all humans. We're not all gonna agree on certain things. So if anybody out there has been disrespected or feels any ill will towards the Nexus, on behalf of the Nexus and on myself, we all apologize for anything. Look, the whole Nexus is here basically just about to bring people together, to make a safe haven to where you can come, chill, meet people in the community, maybe get a sponsor and a spotlight on a backyard wrestling mixtape at the end of the day, what they're called, collab shows. We just got to make wrestling great again, make backyard wrestling great again. Because like
Absolutely. Sean Jovi's put that phrase out there in the past.
all
He
wrestling matters, and let's make backyard wrestling again because all wrestling matters. Because if you look
absolutely.
at it, back in the early 2000s, backyard wrestling was almost as popular or just as popular as indie wrestling. They made
Yeah.
backyard wrestling a fucking
I
game,
remember there
a
was an
licensed
article.
game.
I remember there was an article in the New York Times about 20 years ago on backyard wrestling and how big of a deal it was on Long Island. I mean, I remember like backyard wrestling was like a huge thing. And then, there was a documentary done and some other things, and people kind
They
of,
had a game, a licensed game that came out on PlayStation,
yeah.
Xbox.
It was a
We gotta
huge
get this. We
thing.
gotta get to that level.
Well, you know what? We're trying. I think obviously Summer Bash has done a lot of great things, and Nicholas Crenson was a part of it. Some guys here in the chat were a part of it. I think what you're doing with the Nexus, and I think, we'll certainly see. I think wrestling's on the upswing. I think that we've done a lot with this platform. I don't know if I'd be doing as well as I would be without wrestling. So I'm very grateful for the support. And I think that these are things you can follow Anthony Arias on. I want to thank you so much for your time. I know you have to run. I definitely want to see you after Supernova 3. Let's obviously talk about the fallout from that. And I can't wait to see what all you other guys do in the Nexus. Thank you so much for all that you've done for this great support of this sport. And I can't wait to see you here soon. And congratulations on all the success. And looking
Thank you.
forward to
Thank
the
you.
I Quit match between you and Sam Reeves.
Thank you,
All
brother.
right, that was Anthony Reeves. That was Anthony Arias. I'm getting tongue because I know he's got to get off the air. It's Anthony Arias here. He is the Saint of BYW. He is the man that's going to be up here in FBW's Wrestle Bash 8 against. He's going to be wrestling Sam Reeves in an I Quit match. You can stay tuned to the FBW Backyard Wrestling YouTube page and Instagram page for more information, along with Anthony Arias' pages as well. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice, figuratively and literally, where all wrestling matters. If you're on sportswireradio.org and also on YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, and X, I'll be here at 9 o'clock Eastern time with Jimmy Controversy. But until then, thank you so much, everybody, here for tuning in. Thank you to the Backyard Wrestling Nexus and Anthony Arias. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, on the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling